if you look at training that way too, it's so invigorating because each day we have this awesome opportunity to just get it done. And that itself is a win. Instead of, I had a bad workout today, I'm going to let it simmer with me. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and think, God, there I am again, still the same athlete who's not getting it done or not improving like I should be. Like that's just, it's a rough way to live. And it's a rough way to train if you want to do this and have fun with it.
There he is. What's up, buddy?
Hey! Today, what is it, February 11th, 2020. Welcome aboard. Crushing Iron Podcast 346.
346. Sorry for the delay there. I was talking to Jessica Jacobs over there in Germany on Facebook.
You were talking to her? Oh, yeah, I was going to say you're
chatting.
On the little Facebook Messenger. Yeah, the old chat. Not many people hop on the phone anymore these days, but yeah. We'll have to talk about her some more at the end of the podcast. But yeah, welcome. Welcome aboard. If it's your first time listening, we appreciate you joining us. We come to you twice a week, traditionally Mondays and Thursdays, but one day behind this week due to camp this weekend and just overall getting back into the swing of things on Monday. So if you're a frequent listener, we appreciate your patience in tuning in today. But we cover it all. We cover triathlon, we cover life, and how both of those things intersect and oftentimes complement each other, but can also take away from each other if we don't approach training in the right way. We lose perspective, and then obviously with all the obstacles and stressors that life have, sometimes it's just difficult to navigate. So Mike and I have these open discussions, most of the time not scripted, with kind of a very loose outline, and we just try to deliver a very loose and conversational style format with no ads, no sponsors, and we just hope that you can take a few things from each episode that we do and apply it to your own training and your own life to hopefully have a positive impact on what you do and to keep you healthy and happy in all the endeavors that you're trying to accomplish this year.
Wow, that was inspiring, man.
Thank you. I had to add an extra day. So I had an extra day to kind of get my juices flowing again, as if I needed to after camp. But yeah, that's it. That's what we do. I'm Coach Robbie. That's Mike. We're both coaches and athletes. Been doing this for quite a long time. Been best friends for 7 years. And but yeah, that's what we do. This is our third year. Podcast 346. Dig back in the archives. We have a lot of different topics that we cover. Some podcasts are very outlined and specific in terms of things you want to accomplish, like our How to Not Suck series, our How to Not Suck at Swimming, Running, and Cycling. And we also have some other ones that are very outlined, kind of steps 1 through 6 or 7. And a lot of them are just kind of free-flowing, but Mike does a really awesome job of highlighting each episode as he kind of goes back and does a review and a summary over what we were able to accomplish and cover in every episode that we do. So you should be able to kind of pick and choose, or you can listen to them in order. They will oftentimes make more sense that way, since it is more of a outspoken and journal of our lives and where we're going and the things that are happening with us and our athletes, and even sometimes the people in our closed group. We have a Facebook group that's called Crushing Iron Group. If you want to be a part of that conversation, and it has a lot of really awesome people in there with a lot of wisdom and experience that are willing to be encouraging and answer any of those questions. You can search Facebook, Crushing Iron Group, answer one simple question, and we'll let you in. Door's always open.
Yep. So, you've been busy man since you got back.
Yeah, well, I mean, not super busy, but, it's like you come back. Again, it's your first time listening. You're listening out of order. We had one of our team run camps this last weekend. It starts on Thursday night, and we kind of seclude ourselves in this like giant cabin or lodge, whatever you want to call it, about an hour outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And we're all under one roof. You park your car on Thursday. You don't have to leave again until Sunday. We do a lot of running. We do a lot of hanging out, and just a lot of connecting. And we had just an amazing weekend with weather, as for some reason we always get to have. It had rained like basically every day leading up to camp, and then it has rained every day since. But we got beautiful sunshine weather, and we even had almost like a perfect snow day on our first day of camp, which made things just amazing. But yeah, got back into town, got Hayden, and back to reality. And he started a new school yesterday, which is always kind of a tough thing for anybody, but kids. And he is just kind of getting accustomed to his old school, but we really wanted him in the school he's going to now. He slept in for whatever reason, which he never does. And yeah, just a lot of catch up on from the weekend with athletes and training peaks. And then my dog was throwing up, as that usually happens on a Monday. So, but yeah, here we are. And I appreciate you for being flexible and letting us put this back a day. But yeah, here we are. We're ready to roll. But before we get into any kind of a topic, how are you feeling post camp?
I feel fine. I feel good. I paced it out. I mean, it's a lot of work if you want. I mean, I was thinking today about how we had athletes from varied ages, skill levels, experience, all that kind of thing, and it all just works out for everybody if you approach it the right way and you give that option, and that's sort of what I did. And I took it to my level of fitness and pushed it a little bit, but didn't go too crazy. And I'm re-energized for sure. I mean, and that, to me, that was all about the community and being around people and just you can do amazing things when you have the encouragement and you're in a group of like-minded people, and that's what we had. That's the other thing is interesting is that the wide range of personalities and ages and things like that, and then everybody has sort of that common thread of I want to get better, I want to be around people that are positive, all that kind of stuff, and that goes so far, especially with me. Going into camp, I was really in a funk, and it just sort of leveled me out and straightened me out, and I have a whole different perspective right now, and I guess it's the kind of juice you need once in a while.
Yeah, it's always awesome. I mean, it is my favorite camp. I think I say that all the time, but I know that we've gotten a lot of emails and even a lot of reviews and people posting on Facebook that our podcast last Thursday was one of their favorites. And that was, I got to give a huge kudos to you for starting off that conversation that we had that day, podcast 345, and the Don't Take This Shit for Granted podcast, and being vulnerable and open and being out there. And I thought it was one of my favorite podcasts too. It was a great conversation. I'm glad that people got a lot out of it, but it was great to kind of partner that with a camp. And I think I'm just always reminded at these camps, not just like the amazing people that we have, within our community and our team, but I just don't think that you can overstate the being in an environment and putting yourself in situations where you can get out of your own self. And we discussed this many times, and I think one of the first times we went kind of deeper on it was when we had Steve Magnus on, and he was talking about when people tend to perform better when they are doing it for someone else. Like they're able to get out of their own head, out of their own body. And not necessarily like the selfish nature of athletes in terms of wanting to achieve things for ourselves, but if you're doing it for someone else, or you're able, it's a lot of times in sporting events, professional team events, or even, single sport events where they're athletes that you may have never heard of, or teams that, weren't really on the radar, able to achieve these really almost kind of insurmountable things and surprise people or upsets or do something great because they have like a loss, or they rally around something bigger than themselves. And I think we just so many times get lost in our own thoughts and so many times like our own expectations obviously are most oftentimes skewed with the other realities we have in life, or the other stressors we have in life, or I can't do this, or I shouldn't do this, or I expect this. And run camp for me is something, one of the reasons I love it so much is that people just generally stop. Because you don't know the terrain. The terrain is fairly challenging, in its own way. You never know what you're going to get, because you don't know the routes each day. Like we went out and flagged different routes, a bunch of different routes this year than we've ever had in the past. And so I think when you remove that, the ability to predict and the ability to assume and the ability to expect, and you're running with other people and you're having fun and you're really concentrating more on the environment and the experience than you are some kind of intrinsic expectation, you're able to accomplish so much more. I've talked to so many athletes and just around the lodge and hanging out, and then as kind of like as a summary, it's like, I just can't believe how good I feel. I can't believe how much, mileage I was able to get in. I can't believe I was able to run, 2 or 3 times a day and hike in that terrain. And you look back and like when you see them running with, different groups and people, or I just think we're all able to accomplish so much when we just kind of get out of our own head. And I also think that's one of the biggest challenges, that we have as humans and as athletes is the challenge of getting out of our own head, because that's where chaos and stress and outrageous expectations and self-criticism and negative self-talk, that's where it's just it's just filled in our brain. And I think it's something that's hard to get out of, but doing these camps where we around other people and you can connect and you can kind of use the energy of the group to kind of swallow up those negative thoughts or those expectations, and you can kind of just be. I think it's a very special experience, and it's something that I hope we can, I wish we could bottle up and have every day.
Yeah. For me, it's like you get to be a kid again, and we've talked about this many times, but like we take, a lot of people we just take ourselves so seriously about everything in life, and when you get out there for 4 days, you're kind of in a lodge. It's sort of like this camp experience. It is camp, but it's like college or something. You're just hanging around and bunking up. And there's really, I mean, obviously there's life outside of that and people had worries or whatever, but you get in that moment and I guess it's kind of ironic because, you get out of your head and you get back in your body or something like that. And I heard this quote at my little meditation group the other day. It was pretty interesting. It was, everyone's always trying to figure out a way to get from here to there. But in this practice, we try to get from there to here. And it's sort of this settling inside of who you are instead of letting the mind run amok. And I think that's kind of what gets to happen out there. You're in, like you said, you're in a isolated world. There's really not a whole lot you can do. And you just kind of make do with what's going on and face each moment as something new and fresh. And it is amazing how much the body can do if, when you have people around you and stuff like that. Like if you just, like if you just send somebody out there in an isolated, you're going out to this camp and here's what you got to do over the 4 days or 3 days. It's like, no way. I mean, how many people do you think would just, stick to the plan and go through everything by the letter? But people are just kind of so supportive, and it's kind of like, let's just do it. And your body is amazing.
It's like a big summer camp, I think, for adults. But it is, I think again, like I think one of the things that we could all focus on, do better on. I like what you said about we're trying to get from there to here in times of, like our mind is always filled with, where do we want to go instead of where we are. And we oftentimes, like, we always try to live in the future and obsess about the past, and we're never really truly present because we're always, stuck to some social media app, or we're always wanting to get better. And we find this lack of appreciation for, because we lose ourselves in how far we've come because we either obsess about, what we were able to do in the past or where we want to go in the future. And we oftentimes just fail to really grasp and understand and appreciate the moment. And it's those moments where, because we have so many distractions, and I think that's another thing that camp is able to do, is that, I had another athlete, we were texting back and forth after camp, and he said, he's a quiet guy. He was like, he said, I've been told that I'm a guy that's hard to tell if I'm having fun or not. He was like, but I had a blast. He was like, I had a blast at camp, and sometimes for me, it's really fun and relaxing just to not be needed. Not to always have somebody needing something and you're at work and there's always, text messages or emails or, kids or spouse. Like I could focus on me and just be in the moment without being pulled in a million different directions. And I think, with life, it's one of the hardest things for us to navigate with training, is that there are so many opportunities to be distracted. There are so many opportunities and things that we have to, obviously, with our responsibilities we have as just, a regular person that lives on this planet, to being, in a relationship, to having pets, to, your job, to your friends, to, like you open up your Facebook and it's like, now I feel like I have to comment on 98 million things, and now I have to respond to these things. I have to like all these. It's like we are constantly being pulled. And I think just being able to be in the moment and being still is something that is so rare these days. And having those opportunities to just be still and be in the moment, I think it energizes us in the opposite way of, obviously you've got extroverts and introverts that need to gain energy from other people, or they need time for themselves to re-energize. But just being still, I think, and allowing things to happen and not having expectations or not having predictions, not feeling like you have to be 48 places even while you're doing this one thing, is really such a great way to reinvigorate yourself and energize yourself with training. Whether it's putting away your music or going outside for a run if you're normally inside, or doing something unstructured. It's getting out of our own self, your own thoughts, your own expectations, your own. I think that's just a great way to re-energize yourself and come back, whether a camp or you can do this on your own, to find these ways where we can energize ourselves through being in the moment and being still and finding the fun. I think that's one of the things I love so much about anytime we have a camp or we do anything as a group or team events is that I just think we forget to have fun. We take ourselves so seriously, and we take every session or we can take every session that we do, swim, bike, run, like every race can be so serious because we have all these things that we have to do, that we have to be on time with, these expectations that we have to meet, that we have to get on the podium, we have to beat last time, or we have to stay on this trajectory that keeps me, improving to the point that I want to be later this year or this next year, that we just forget to have fun. And having fun and removing those, I think it allows, oftentimes when you remove that stress and you become less rigid and less tense, you can do so many things. And I think that our mind, in my opinion, our body is rarely ever the obstacle. It's our mind. And it's the different conversations that we have in our mind that tell our body that it can't, or that it shouldn't, or that it's not able to, or that it's not on time, or that it's late. Instead of just letting our body be who it needs to be, and then instead of us telling our body something, letting our body tell us where it is and what it needs and how we can energize it and reinvigorate it. I think it's a hard relationship, I think, to manage for every athlete, because we see our sessions laid out, or we lay out our own sessions, and we look in Training Peaks or whatever calendar you have, and you see a workout here, and then you it's human nature. You automatically think, I'm not saying that you should be able to remove this, but you just automatically think, all right, this is going to go this way. I was joking with a couple of athletes at camp that I had never met before. It's like, yeah, but we were kind of exchanging emails. You hear someone's name and you hear part of the story, and I think it's just human nature to immediately like pop a picture of what you think they might look like in your head. And I was joking with Mark Hagan the first time he emailed me. I don't know what it was about his email, but I was like, Mark Hagan. He's, if you know Mark, which probably not a lot of you do. He's probably like 6 foot, maybe like 175, 180. And when I read his email like over a year ago, my first thought was he's probably like 6'5", 330. And I was joking with him at camp because and it wasn't a bad thing. It was just like, I think we do that. We obviously just like we go through this in our mind, that we create these images based on how we're reading it and whatever reality we are at the moment. And I think we do that with training. We see these workouts, we have these expectations of how things are going to go in their specific order, because most triathletes are super type A and they're super anal about everything being correct and everything being controlled, everything being in line, that we create these expectations. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have them, or it's easy to remove them. It's that it's having the ability to see something and just know that it's going to be what it's going to be. And the best way that we can go about that is letting our body run its course and let our body lead the way, instead of our mind trying to be 2 weeks ahead or 2 weeks back, when our body's right here, basically like with his hands up, being like, dude, where are you at? Like, I'm ready to do this right now, and you're telling me that I can't, or that I shouldn't be able to, because you've already made up your mind. And I think there's a lot to the amount of energy we can give and take away from our body from just how we think and our thought process. I'm not saying we could think ourselves tired, but I believe to an extent we can. I believe that we can think our body in a way to not be ready or to be ready, by allowing it to just be who it is, and not try to just, it is like we just want to be in control of everything. And it's sometimes we're almost like surprised and almost offended that our body had a different agenda for the day. It was like, I can't do this today. I can't go this hard. I need to back off. Like, God, my body just is giving up on me. Like, I just can't do this thing. And then other days, it's your mind thinks one thing, your body's like, bye, see ya. And it's like takes off in a direction and a pace or an effort or whatever it is that you couldn't even imagine. I think we oftentimes just forget that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that, man. I think it can really affect a lot of stuff. Like whenever we got back from these workouts this weekend, and we'd have maybe like a 2.5 hour break or something, and we come back, and then my first thought always was like, oh, what are we gonna do now? And what we did was just kind of sit around and hang out and get to know each other, and it feels a little bit uneasy sometimes, I think, because we always have calendars stacked and we've got plans made out, and we're always thinking about other things that need to, and that stuff just zaps me. I don't know about you, but like, if it's I guess if it's something I can't do anything about and I'm stressing about it, it has no purpose, And I was another thing I was learning with this guy, this teacher we have at our meditation group. He was just. He was talking about when he started to meditate, right? And I think everybody's done this if they've meditated before, but they sit there and they have and he was talking about an itch he had on his nose, and how he, every bone in his body was just trying to just itch it. He didn't want to distract the people around him or whatever, but he just sat with it, and eventually it goes away. And I was thinking about that, like how big of a deal that can be, is if you can just sit with what is. And after our runs, and we were just sitting there with really no quote unquote agenda or purpose or what was coming next, but be able to sit with what is. And I was also transferring that over to because I think a lot of times what happens is that becomes boredom, or not, the inability to be able to sit there like that translates into food consumption too sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I know that very well, and I started to try to put that in my head as like, okay, yeah, I feel like eating that donut right now, but let me just sit with that for a little bit longer and see if I can avoid it. But I think that those are just little keys, or little habits that we can build. And that's people are always asking about meditation and what it is for me, but it's stuff like that, where you can kind of just feel that thought, or that like you're talking about, your brain saying, hey, we've got to run fast today, and it's just the ability to sort of let that sit there for a minute and just sort of pull it back in and straighten it back out, and just say, hey, just go, this is what we really need to do today. And my body doesn't really want to go where that head is saying or whatever, but I know that's getting a little convoluted, but I just think it's really an important part of everything, is being able to kind of pull yourself back into center. And I think that's a lot of what happens at that run camp. But
yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we got a lot of t-shirt designs.
Yeah, man. But no, I think another athlete I was kind of testing back and forth with. He was one of the athletes that helped me do a bunch of the flagging and the marking of the courses and stuff. They need to run them again, and he was saying that he got, I think, close to 40 miles in those 3 days. That's a hard 40 miles, in terms of I think I got over 2,000 feet of gain every day, or Saturday or Friday and Saturday, and it just got to me thinking, we were kind of going back and forth on training peaks and some other things, but as I was talking to some other athletes and what they were able to accomplish in such a short time window, is that there's, I think, one of the, and listen, obviously I'm a coach. I use training peaks. I use the ability to track and see trends with with the software that it has, and I don't use it to the full extent that they probably want you to, because I don't like some of the tools and the algorithms that it kind of has on the back end. But I think one of the things that gets in a lot of athletes' way is our ability to have so much information to track things every single moment of every single day. And while I'm all for numbers and information and data, because I think information is great, I think also I don't want to say when you put it in the wrong hands, but when you put it in the wrong perspective, then it can actually be harmful. Because everything we do now, swim, bike, run, like walk, like people upload every metric you can, like how many breaths did I take today? I sneezed 4 times. I was able to, it's like you track everything. And then if you do like a similar workout on, February 2nd, and then you're like, all right, I got to go back and look at that exact same workout and what I did 6 months ago. And if it wasn't better, then I'm getting worse. And while there could be truth to not the worst part, but it could be that it's different. If you look at it as a singular workout, okay, the same exact workout that was done 4 months apart, and one was better and one was worse. If you don't take into account the next 2 weeks and the previous like almost 2 months, then your perspective is greatly skewed, because there are obviously ebbs and flows to the year. There are ebbs and flows and trends. There is this thing that you can't see, and I think this is where like athletes get this tracking tunnel vision. Is you basically live life and absorb its stress and talk about it and feel it and live it. Yet oftentimes we just 100% want to ignore it, like it has zero impact on our training. Zero. And you could look at athletes and say, sometimes I have to bring this up to them, like, or a workout was the same, and I'm like, or it wasn't as good as they wanted to be. I'm like, dude, is it just me, or do I need to like remind you of what's been happening in your life for the last month? Why would you expect things to be? It's like it's just funny how I think humans balance ourselves between we have to be superhuman and oh my God, we're so fragile. Like we rarely ever like we find that middle ground of I'm just steady, and I know that some days are going to be good, some days are going to be bad. We just love to jump to one end of the spectrum or the other. I'm crushing it, or oh my God, I'm getting terrible. Like that's how we like to jump. I think that's just how we humans are wired in general. But there's tracks and then there's trending. I think your body is what helps you identify how you're trending and how you're feeling. Some athletes will comment to me that I think that I would say get it, that I don't feel myself being really really fast right now, but I'm a little bit faster, but I'm able to do so much more. I just know I'm that much more efficient. So they can see and feel the trend. But when you look at like camps or big weekends, even like a lot of athletes that are doing 70.3s or Ironman, look, they have these like really big kind of 3 or 4 day blocks, maybe on the weekend that would be very, very similar to a camp we just did. And if they were looking and tracking 24/7 about their every minute, every hour of the day, they would think, oh my gosh, I've already done 7 miles today. I can't do 4 more miles this afternoon. I just can't do it. Like if you look back at how you track things, I just can't do it. But if you don't have that opportunity, like you said, you have this downtime to think, I'm done for the day. Okay, I'm gonna go out and do it again, and you just do it and just listen to your body instead of telling your body that it can't. Then you wake up a day or two later and you think, oh my God, I can't believe that I like feel this good, and I can't believe I was able to do this kind of mileage. But if you put them in their own vacuum of training solo or day-to-day life with stressors, then they prevent themselves from doing these I don't want to say feats, but being able to achieve these specific levels of performance or training or duration or having days and days back to back to back that they never would think they could do. But when you put them in these camps, or again these like 3 or 4 day maybe really hard blocks of training, and then they just do what's in front of you. And I think as a coach and an athlete, one of the biggest things I've learned in the last 2 or 3 years is that the amount of freedom and the amount of improvement you can see by just doing what's in front of you and not doing what's in front of you and then immediately looking backwards or immediately looking forwards, the freedom and in the amount of stress you can remove from your day-to-day life without having that expectation or the energy that goes into the comparison that ultimately feeds the negative self-talk or that tells you that you're not on track. Like removing just those thoughts, like it can be so freeing. And if you can find yourself achieving things and having training sessions that you never would have imagined because you're able to do them with no other critical chains attached to it, because athletes get this, I don't know, sometimes it's anxiety or they dread specific sessions because now once this session is on the calendar, once they see it, now they feel compelled to compare. And that's another reason why I loathe, for the most part, I loathe testing, because you're basically saying, here is a, it's a lot like the review system, in my opinion. You could go to if you're going out to eat, you can go to like a 3-star Michelin restaurant that is like, world renowned, and you go in and you have like one bad experience with a server who's like, your waitress who's having like the worst day of their life, and they just couldn't control that day, and they give you bad service, and you're like, oh, dude, this restaurant's so overrated. It's a 1-star. Don't ever go there. And you make this assumption and criticism and label that as this when you like totally miss the point of the entire experience, or the fact that every other day of the year it's probably perfection or it's probably good. And that's just how we title it. And I think we do that with workouts. We love to just title things and label things as pass or fail, better or worse, improving or getting slower, instead of it just was what it was today. And because it's a lot easier for us to do that. And I think triathletes and endurance athletes, especially, like, because of where they come from, or their professional lives, or just a lot of their personality traits, like we love for some reason to be hard on ourselves. Like we almost thrive off of that like psychological flogging that it's like we don't get enough of, in day-to-day life. It's like we have to be hard on ourselves. I can't believe I couldn't do this today. I just got to be better. I'm like, or you could just realize that, I don't know, like, you had a bad day, and we're all capable of having those, and we're all actually, guess what? We're all actually allowed to have those. And it's not an indictment on your athletic ability. It's not an indictment on your future performances, or how well you're able to balance life or training, or how dedicated you are. It's not an indictment on how motivated you are. It's not telling you that you're lazy. It's just that you either had a bad day, you had a bad session, or for a lot of us, dude, you're just having a bad week, man. Like, because, I don't know, you're going through a rough time at home, you have the threat of a job loss. Like, these things impact us so greatly. And I think that's also why, like, these camps, athletes can do so much more than they think, because they're being removed from where they are normally, right, in life. Like the guy I was talking about earlier said, it's just nice to be not needed, because because that takes away our energy, and it takes away our ability to see who we really are that day, and what energy we have to give, and how we can perform. And so then you go back to, obviously, reality. It's like, like me on Monday, I text you, I was like, dude, I just can't do it today. Like, I think at the time I got so much work to do. My dog's sewn up, Hayden's, slept in. Anytime we're away from him for a few days, the first couple of days back, he's like, just not like the greatest camper. And then all these other things, and I was like, dude, I just can't do it today. And to be honest with you, in the past, I probably would have just done it, and probably just done like a really crappy job. But I think that we lose sight so much of the impact that life has, because we're always obsessed with putting on this persona and this image of, our Instagram life is, this life is great, baby. Like, this, I got it going on. Look at this meal I'm making. Whoop whoop. And then, like, if you took a selfie, you look like totally disheveled and like running on like 2 hours of sleep. You're like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought life was really like. But we're so hard on ourselves, and we take workouts with, we don't take them with a grain of salt. We take them and we concrete them, and we put them up as like a pass or fail trophy every day, instead of just being like, okay, I did it. And you know what? That in itself is the number one thing you should always look at. Did I do it, and did I try to do it? Yes. Then instead of giving yourself 1 point, you should give yourself 90% of the points for just doing it, because doing it is the hardest part. Finding a way, using your time management, getting up off the couch when you don't want to get off the couch, braving the elements, driving to the gym to hop in the pool, hopping on our trainer at 8 o'clock at night. Doing it is 90% of the way. But we take that 10% of how the workout went, and we make it the 90. We make it the part and the percentage that is going to overcome and overwhelm just the fact that we were able to do. We were able to do it. And I think we should give ourselves more credit. Like, I am, obviously not a huge like rah-rah coach and like, hashtag epic workout, hashtag crushed it, but give yourself some credit for doing it, because life can suck the energy out of you every single day. And I think that's what athletes say when they leave camps, they do these workouts, when they're removed from their normal day-to-day life and the day-to-day stressors, they're able to do things they weren't normally able to do. I think it's just a great lesson on when you go back to life and it takes longer to recover than it normally does, you don't have the energy. You're like, this is less than I was doing last week. I think I'm getting slower. You're like, no, impact is impact. Stress is a giant impact, and the energy. I mean, I know I talk about this almost every post camp or post team race. When I come back from an event like this or a camp like this, where I have to focus and be on, quote unquote, on all the time and run a lot, and then we come back. The first like 2 to 3 days, I'm low in energy and I'm tired. I am a significantly worse parent and a worse spouse, not because that's who I am, because I feel like I'm a pretty good husband and I feel like I'm a really good father. But those first 2 or 3 days I'm back, I'm so tired and I'm so lacking energy that my patience is probably less than it usually is. My ability to think certain ways and do different things is not on cue. It's not that I'm bad or I'm getting worse, right? I'm getting worse at these things. It's just that I'm being impacted. And I think recognizing that and owning it, and then hopefully taking steps to make yourself aware, and then hopefully mitigate those maybe negative responses, or take a extra day off when you get back from these camps, or take things even lighter, or eat even cleaner to make sure you're recovering well. I think it's the global environment that we're in. I think as athletes, we tend to try to be superheroes in all areas. And the fact is we all have a kryptonite, and it's stress.
It's hard, right? So what we're doing, I think we lose track of that when you're doing workouts every single day, sometimes twice a day, it's hard, man. 99% of the people don't do this, so, and then we get to judge ourselves, right, for, having a bad workout or something. And that's the thing with metrics, is it seems everything we do is kind of tied to a clock or a result and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I hear that all the time too, is, yeah, it was a pretty good workout, but I think I'm getting slower, or I don't know if I'm getting faster. and it's so weird because it's this accumulated fatigue thing that we've talked about. We have a podcast specifically about it, and there's a lot of reference to it throughout the years. But we don't realize that this stuff adds up, and some days it's going to be good and some days they're not going to be good. But it's all a big, it's pieces of the puzzle, right, coming together. I mean, do they like aerobic? Do they still have aerobics? Do people still do aerobics? Or whatever. Some of these classes.
It's probably not called aerobics. It's probably called like something really jazzy and like
What I want to know is
easily to market.
Do they still wear leg warmers or whatever when they do these things, or body pumps or whatever these things are? People. I don't know. Maybe they do that every day, but I feel like they might do it a few times a week or whatever. And I can't remember the last time I heard somebody say, I'm just getting terrible at aerobics. It's like I'm getting worse. I don't know what it is. When they leave class, they just leave class. You know what I mean? There's just they just had class. There's no like, hey, I did 85 burpees today or what. I don't know. That I just feel like most people. And it's kind of back to that having fun thing again, right? And being a kid or whatever. It's just like let your body go out and do its due, and go through it and do the best you can without always putting a stigma on it. Because, man, it's just like I tell people, yeah, you might not think you're getting fast or whatever, but like what is this illusion about being fast anyway? Especially when we're talking about long course racing. For most of us, everyone wants to think in terms of sprinting and fat, and my thing is always like, okay, but you just swam 38 or 2,800 meters and held it pretty strong. I mean, our goal isn't like whatever you think fast is in the pool. It's your goal is to be able to kind of hold around that range for a longer period of time and feel fresher when you get out of the water. It isn't about breaking Olympic records on an Ironman swim, and a lot of times we end up swimming 200 to 400, 500 yards further than the actual distance, which affects our course, which we really don't have we can't really see or think about. We just see the average 100 pace, and it drives us crazy. But there's all these things about how do you hold that pace in a marathon, or how can you, build that Cadillac engine where you don't even have to rev it up that hard and just keep it and cruise it. And I think that's a weird thing, being able to sustain what we do on a day in, day out basis, and always kind of put a a score to it. Like you're in a college class and there's a quiz like every day. It's like, damn, man. Sometimes you just got to throw those quizzes away. It's kind of that same thing. We throw out the bottom feeders or whatever, and well, that's because they're not the truth, right?
Right.
If you're a good student, you might bomb a couple quizzes here and there. You can't let that just affect you all the time.
Yeah, or bomb a ton like I did.
Yeah.
It's if you think about it, life, and again, like we, going back to, like, I think that was a great, perspective on, not slowing down. But like we always say, for in the marathon or even like 70.3 in Ironman racing, it's not how fast you go, it's who slows down the least. And I think that is the exact way you should look at life. It's not about how great you do today. It's about how good you can be for the long haul. Because life's going to affect us in a million different ways every single day, in a million different, it could be just work, it could be, at home, it could be anything. And, like it's like a sick dog that puts people out of commission for like 4 or 5 days. And like, I feel like and then we like to shame ourselves. Like, I'm sorry. I just can't, I got to be more motivated. And you're like, dude, you have no energy to be motivated. It takes energy to be motivated. It takes energy to get out and do these things. It's not just, I think people have this view of motivation as it's a constant, all energized thing that you either have all the time or you don't. And if you lose it, again, it's like an indictment on your inability to stay committed and stay focused. But oftentimes what it is instead is you don't have the energy to be motivated. Like, you can't just motivation isn't the good version of an excuse because, if I was motivated, I would have got up and did it. No. If you had energy to be motivated, then you would have had a whole different view on what you needed to do that day, and it wouldn't have been an issue. Therefore, you would have done it. And life is that. It is who slows down the least, because just in like long course racing, we're all going to take shots. We're going to get kicked in the swim. We're going to drop a nutrition bottle on the bike. We're going to get a flat tire. We're going to not have our legs underneath us. We're going to get a headwind. We're going to have, a rough patch. And we're going to hop off the bike and, we're going to have a, blister on our toe. And then we're going to have a rough patch in the marathon. But it's like, it's not about how fast you can sing. It's about who slows down the least and who allows those obstacles and those stressors to come and go as they are, and not, again, attach yourself to an immediate outcome like we do. And like you see a lot about, they have one bad moment in the swim, and because I hate reading these type things. Maybe hate's a strong word. I just really dislike reading these type of things. Like, I hopped in the swim and I ran, I swam like 300 meters and then I got kicked in the face. My goggles leaked. And it was at that point that I knew my day was over.
Come on.
No, dude. No, it wasn't over. I believe people think that because I've read them in race reports. I'm like, that's not even a race report, man. That's just like one big complaint. Like, let's say, I chose to take this and run with it instead of finding a way to just keep going. Like, but people do that all the time. They make these assumptions that it's all going to, like we did, like the life is shining its light on us, and whatever is happening right now, we deserve to hold on to it. And it's going to continue, whether it's good or bad. In terms of, things can be rolling around. I tell you, I'm going to crush it. I'm feeling great on the bike. You know what I need to do? I'm going to push even harder. And then I'm all for the run. You think that was a bad idea. And yeah, everybody has. I think it's, again, like it's how we attach and identify with these feelings, these thoughts, these emotions, and then we run with them like we have to, instead of just letting them be, letting them come, and then letting them go. And I think that's hard, because I think that we don't we would oftentimes like to know that things are just bad and they're just bad and we can expect that, or that they're good and we can expect that too. We don't want to really know that we, might have to go with the ebb and flow of life and just kind of, as they say, go with the flow. It could be good, could be bad, and don't get too high, don't get too low. Be steady Eddie. It's hard, but it's one of those things where you see people make those decisions in races, and something that happens really early on can impact you in a really negative way. But I've also seen people, because it always comes down to like workouts, where they say, man, because like we always say in that podcast you referenced earlier, about accumulated fatigue, we say, fatigue masks fitness. Because if you're consistent and you're working on week to week to week, like you're not going to be able to see some giant gain because you're working out every day, right? You're putting these weeks and weeks and blocks together. Then on race day, you shut it all off, and then you kind of get to reveal the fitness that you have. Well, the same thing goes with stress and things that are difficult in life. Like, it's stress masks fitness as well in that way, and it also affects decision making, which can lead to us making decisions within a training session, within a race, that can totally ruin the ability to see where your true fitness is, because people make that mistake too. They going back to what I just said a second ago, like you can think, oh, I'm having a great day on the bike, I'm going to overshoot my watts because I'm feeling it today, and then you all of a sudden just have the worst run ever. Now, what do we really know? Well, we really know that your bike's pretty good, but we also know you have poor decision-making skills, and you let your ego get in the way. So we knew almost nothing about your run. And so we do that again in life too, with training, and we make these assumptions on how things should be and how they're going to go instead of just being in the moment. But we do that because it's tiring, because it's exhausting. It's almost, people like they would rather find the bad in something than the good, and the other people that are vice versa. But it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of effort to navigate the obstacles and the stressors and the feelings that we have in life. And the same thing goes with training. The good training days and the bad training days, and the ability to speak. You know what? I love reading this. Yeah, you know what? It just wasn't a good day. I'm just chalking it up to an off day. Perfect. Instead of saying it was an off day, I'm now going to print it off, laminate it, frame it, and put it above my mantle as a identifying factor of who I am as an athlete, and that's going to stay there until I have a perfect workout. Like, those are the two polar opposites you have with athletes, and it should always be it just wasn't my day. I know I'm probably tired, so big deal. Or I didn't expect to have this because I went out last night and had a couple beers with the guys and watched the game till 1 p.m. So I kind of got what I got today. And so it's funny how we look at training and we look at racing. Some athletes are willing to accept because they know and understand, they have a perspective of ownership of, yeah, I'd stay out, I stayed up last night watching the Super Bowl until 1 a.m. and I probably ate too many wings and too many chips and I had a couple beers. So I didn't expect today's workout to go good. And so I'm not shocked this felt terrible. But on other days, we refuse. Like, we have a 14-hour day at work and we don't have a lot of sleep and we didn't drink enough water, we didn't eat enough, and you're like, I don't know, man, I just can't put my finger on it. I just can't understand why today wasn't, I didn't have it today. And you're like, dude, like, hello, rewind, go back, look at what happened today and look at the last couple of days. Should you have expected to have a great workout? No, probably not. But we do that to ourselves, and we continue to beat ourselves up about it. And it's a fine line. It's what leads a lot of people to burnout and frustration and discouragement, and then again they end up just stopping.
That's an interesting perspective, because the funny part about that is that I think what makes it so confusing is that some days we will stay up late, have a few beers, watch the Super Bowl, be up late, and then wake up and have a good workout.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, then you're like, oh, wait a minute. And then 2 days later, you have the bad workout, and you don't put those two together. Mm-hmm. I think that's what happens a lot. I've always thought about that in terms of, okay, what I ate today or what I did today is going to be affecting me 2-3 days down the road. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, because there's that, okay, that idea of staying up late, I'm going to power through this, and you get your mind wrapped around it, and you can go and it works out for whatever reason, because maybe the last 2 days were not what, you know what I mean. So I think it gets confusing, and it's so hard to really understand that something last week might be catching up with you or something like that.
It's we can't catch up on sleep. That's like a myth that we always have, but you can. Like, I've read a bunch of studies, like before long Ironman events or endurance, like long ultra runs, you can bank sleep. So like for the 4 or 5 days before like a really long event, like a 7.3 in Ironman, or a 50-mile or 100-mile running event where you're going to get little to no sleep and it's going to be impacted greatly, you can bank sleep on the front end and have it not negatively impact you on race day. Have you, like, so if you're an 8-hour person, you normally get 8 hours sleep, you go to bed at 8 o'clock and you wake up at 4, or you get 9 hours sleep, you wake up at 5. If you sleep in more and to get another hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep, it can actually improve your performance or not have your performance impacted as much by the loss of sleep in those preceding days. So if you take that study and you take the information they got from that and you look at it as just a regular week to week, the same goes in reverse. If you get negatively impacted on sleep, a couple of days in a row, like you just give a perfect example. If 5 or 6 days in a row, then it's gonna come crashing down. But if you had 4 like 10, 11-hour nights of sleep, and then you have one bad night of sleep, it's like a blip on the radar. Because because you look at things as they accumulate. Like we talk about accumulated fatigue, accumulated stress, accumulated sleep, when you're talking about re-energizing yourself, like those accumulate as well. And so the dents you might put into it with life and life stressors or bad sleep or bad eating, your previous good decisions can make up for it. Like I tell athletes all the time when it comes to consistency, like one of the main, besides like all the obvious benefits of being consistent, one of the greatest things about being consistent is when you're consistent all the time, no matter what, and you do what you need to do, the periods of time that come up, whether it be vacation, whether it be work, whether it be sickness, they become almost non-impactful because you've been so consistent up to that point, you don't need to worry about it because you've done all the work you need to. This is going to be the period of time that you need to rest, or the best part is don't even worry about it. Because you've been so consistent, you haven't missed workouts, and you've trained consistently, and you've done the work the last 3 or 4 months. So now you have to go on vacation for a week. Dude, don't bring your bike. Don't find a pool. Do a couple runs if you want to. Other than that, have a good time. Like the ability to do that and to not feel guilty or stressed or anxiety because you're missing your sessions. You don't need to have that. And so, again, everything's compounded. That's why you can't, going back to what I said like 30 minutes ago, when you look at tracking and trending, it's how are you trending? Like if your stock is going up 6 months in a row and all of a sudden it has a down day, sell, baby. We got to sell. No. You're like, dude, it's just a bad day. Keep rolling with it. And the same thing goes with life and with training and in this individual sessions you do. It's all about how you're trending. It's not just tracking the specific day. Yes, can you see certain things? Absolutely, but it's about how you're trending because you were saying, you made that comment about, the donut at camp. You're like, I really want the donut. And I gave someone kind of a similar analogy a couple of weeks ago. They were asking me about drinking, and I was like, one of the first couple meetings I was in AA, they said, there's nothing wrong with craving or wanting a drink, but don't do it. Sleep on it. And if you wake up the next morning and you still think it's a good idea, then go for it. And no one ever wakes up and thinks, that was a good idea. I think I'll have one right now. They're always like, thank God I slept on it because now I'm able to see things clear and now I totally don't want it. I was just in that moment, I was just feeling it. But I woke up, I slept on it, and I feel totally different that day. Like if you look at training that way too, it's so invigorating because each day we have this awesome opportunity to just get it done. And that itself is a win. Instead of, I had a bad workout today, I'm going to let it simmer with me. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and think, there I am again, still the same athlete who's not getting it done or not improving like I should be. Like that's just, it's a rough way to live. And it's a rough way to train if you want to do this and have fun with it. And like I probably if I were to count, I would say it's probably like 10-1, if not even higher than that. Like I am the coach that tries to talk athletes out of doing an Ironman they've already signed up for, because athletes can't see themselves they see the tree, right? And that's common. It's very, very common. That's why athletes get coaches. But the athlete sees the tree, and the coach hopefully sees the forest. And you could be smack dab in the middle of this season of life, living it as yourself, that in every ounce of life is saying, this race is not the right move. This race is not a good idea. You don't have the time. It's causing you stress. Listen, let me tell you this right now, if you're listening, and there is a race that is causing you stress, that is making your training horrible, or that you feel like you have to rush, defer it or don't do it. Guess what, guys? Registering for races, doing races, is a choice. It's voluntary. You don't have to. We do this for fun. So don't. And again, it's not an indictment on your ability to do these. It's just saying, you know what, life right now is saying, maybe later, maybe again sometime soon, but maybe not this one. And I think it's a freeing ownership to have in being able to navigate our own journey and being the captain of our own ship and saying, yeah, you know what, these seas look a little rough. They don't look like I can get to where I want to go. You know what? I'm just going to anchor out here about, 100 miles offshore and just chill for a bit and then wait for it to pass. And then I can get home. Instead of being like, you know what, I've got to get there right now. Why? Well, because I have to. No, you don't. You don't have to do anything. It's voluntary. Just think about it. Be happy. To love what you're doing. And that's I think it's one of those things that we often forget, especially as we're getting even closer and closer to the meat of the season, where there are so many races that you hear the word "have to" all the time, and you rarely ever hear "get to" or "I want to" or "I can't wait to." It's "I have to," or "I feel like I'm getting behind." Like there is this clock that we're in control of that can't be stopped, when all of it is the expectation timer we have that we set a year ago before we even knew we were going to have the life we have right now and the stress we have and the things that have happened all the way in between. Like we can acknowledge so easily that we have so little control over so things, yet we want to take ownership over everything.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, bring it home with the yeah, man.
Yeah. Let's put it right down.
Let's put it down, man. Put it to bed. Oh, speaking of putting to bed.
Oh, by the way, thank you for bringing up that bank sleep thing. That's but everyone out there listening, that's my secret.
He is the venture capitalist of the Bank of Sleep.
Dude, I used to oversleep work on purpose just because I didn't have enough. That's how dedicated I am to sleep.
I know, dude. You don't tell me. You and I think Jerry Keller told me at Campus Weekend, she is a professional sleeper. She cannot be phased. She can take care of business.
She goes to bed at 6:30.
No, dude. It's like, that makes me feel. I loved hearing that because it made me feel like a partier. I'm
man, you're a wild
6:30.
Man. Dude, I can text you at 8:15 and you respond sometimes.
I know, dude. Anyway, hey, as always, we appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't, or even if you have, go on back, check it out. Our new website, C26Triathlon.com. It is your one-stop shop for all things training, racing, and our community. So check it out. If you have any questions, you can hit up Mike, crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have any questions specifically for me, C26coach@gmail.com. If you have any coaching inquiries, you can go through our website, check those out. I'm currently full at the moment, but another awesome coach, Jessica Jacobs, has a few slots open. So check that out and look at her bio. She's not just an amazing athlete, but she's an amazing person and a wonderful coach. So check out her bio and then reach out. And hey, we'll probably catch you on Thursday.
Yeah.
Friday. We're being flexible.
Yeah, Thursday or Friday. Also under that coaching, I have put out a new, it's called the Hub Plan. You can check that out. It's sort of kind of working with me, and you get a nice training plan and all kinds of other fun stuff.
Maybe you should throw on like a sleep plan.
Sleep plan. I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, one more shout out for meditation. There is science behind this, that a good meditative session is more impactful than sleep, more restful than sleep.
Oh, I totally believe that.
So you can think about that one today.
Yeah. Meditate on that one, people.
All right, buddy. I guess that wraps it up. You had a good camp. Thanks for everything you did out there at Run Camp. It was spectacular. The Polar Plunge is alive and well.
It is.
It's growing.
Is alive and well. It is growing.
Started the tradition last time with 3 people, and this time I think we had 10. So, and I lost my glasses. Which
I think that was nature's way of saying it's time to get rid of those glasses, man. Yeah,
I think you're right. The reason I wore them is for that very reason, is because I didn't care about them.
They were expendable.
Yeah, they were expendable. I'm really trying to minimalize lately, anyway. And those glasses were just one other thing I didn't need.
Part of the shrapnel.
There we go. All right, buddy. Have a great day.
You too, dude. Talk to you later.